At its peak, the Bank of Credit and Commerce International was nothing short of a financial titan. Within 2 decades of its founding in 1972, BCCI had become one of the fastest growing banks in history. By the mid-1980s, it boasted more than 400 branches in 73 countries across 6 continents, a reach few banks had achieved. BCCI handled an astonishing $20 billion in assets, with deposits pouring in from powerful clients that included wealthy oil sheikhs, influential political figures, and entire governments. Headquartered in Luxembourg and operating largely from secrecy-friendly jurisdictions, BCCI used its unique decentralized structure to conduct business in every corner of the world, from the Middle East and Asia to Europe, Africa, and the Americas. The bank's success was meteoric. Within a few short years, BCCI had surpassed nearly every competitor in terms of growth, serving millions of clients who saw the bank as a powerful institution capable of bridging the gap between East and West. Under the charismatic leadership of Agha Hasan Abedi, BCCI presented itself as a new kind of bank, a revolutionary institution that transcended borders and catered to the financial needs of the developing world while challenging the dominance of traditional Western banking. By all outward appearances, BCCI was a success story in global finance. Yet behind this facade lay a deeply ingrained culture of corruption. BCCI had earned a reputation as the Bank of Crooks and Criminals International, a moniker that would only gain credence as investigations began to reveal a vast web of illegal activity, from money laundering and arms trafficking to terrorist financing and political bribery. BCCI's operations span the entire spectrum of financial crime. By the time it was forcibly shut down in 1991, BCCI had become infamous as one of the largest and most corrupt criminal enterprises in financial history, defrauding depositors of billions and leaving a permanent stain on the global banking system. Agha Hasan Abedi's story is one marked by ambition, innovation, and ultimately scandal. Born in 1922 in the culturally rich city of Lucknow, India, Abedi's upbringing was shaped by the social and political turmoil of colonial India. Lucknow, known for its blend of Hindu and Muslim traditions, was a center of intellectual and spiritual thought, and this environment had a profound influence on the young Abedi. Raised in a middle-class family, he developed an early interest in literature, philosophy, and the dynamics of societal structures. His family emphasized education, and Abedi was known from a young age for his intellectual curiosity and drive to succeed. Abedi pursued higher education at Lucknow University, earning a degree in English literature. His love for the written word was evident in his academic pursuits, and his proficiency in English was seen as a valuable skill in a society still under British rule. However, Abedi's aspirations went beyond academia. He also obtained a law degree, intending to leverage his understanding of systems and justice into a meaningful career. But it wasn't the courtroom that would capture his imagination. It was the world of banking, which at the time was undergoing significant transformation due to the impending independence of India and Pakistan. Despite his academic credentials, Abedi found himself drawn to the dynamic and evolving world of finance. In 1946, he joined Habib Bank, one of the leading financial institutions in British India. Abedi's entry into the banking sector was a turning point in his life. At Habib Bank, he quickly distinguished himself as a forward-thinking, ambitious young man, eager to push boundaries and innovate in a field that had traditionally been conservative. He was a natural leader and visionary, qualities that propelled him to rise through the ranks of Habib Bank's corporate structure. But despite his rapid success, Abedi was dissatisfied with the limitations of traditional banking, especially the rigid, family-controlled nature of institutions like Habib Bank. His experiences at Habib Bank left him yearning for more autonomy, more flexibility, and a greater scope to implement his ideas. The conservative banking practices of the time, especially in newly independent Pakistan, frustrated Abedi, who saw untapped potential in modernizing and expanding the reach of banking services to underserved populations. He believed that banking could be a tool for economic development and social empowerment, particularly in the post-colonial world. His dissatisfaction with the status quo, coupled with his bold vision for what banking could become, led Abedi to make a pivotal decision. He would create his own bank. In 1959, at the age of 37, Abedi founded United Bank Limited, one of Pakistan's first private banks. With financial backing from key industrialists in Pakistan, UBL quickly grew under Abedi's leadership. His innovative approach, combined with his deep understanding of both local and international markets, positioned UBL as a leading force in the banking industry in Pakistan. UBL's success further cemented Abedi's reputation as a visionary banker. But it was only the beginning of his larger ambition to create a global financial empire that would revolutionize the world of banking. By the early 1970s, Abedi's aspirations had outgrown the confines of Pakistan's domestic banking industry. He began to dream of establishing a truly global financial institution, one that would serve not only the developing world, but also challenge the dominance of Western financial institutions. His vision was to create a bank that would operate across borders, providing services to those who had been traditionally underserved by the global banking system, especially in the emerging markets of Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. In 1972, Abedi's vision materialized with the creation of the Bank of Credit and Commerce International. BCCI was headquartered in Luxembourg, a decision that reflected Abedi's desire to avoid the regulatory limitations imposed by more established financial centers like London or New York. Luxembourg's flexible financial laws and lack of stringent oversight made it an ideal base for the bank's ambitious, multinational operations. From the very beginning, BCCI was different. Abedi designed it to be a bank that would break away from traditional models of finance. BCCI's operations were global, decentralized, and focused on providing banking services to clients from developing nations, markets often neglected by the established Western banking powers. BCCI quickly expanded its operations, establishing a presence in 73 countries, including significant markets in the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Under Abedi's charismatic leadership, BCCI grew at a rapid pace. He cultivated a culture of loyalty and commitment among his employees, whom he referred to as the BCC family. Abedi's management style was personal and almost paternalistic. He saw himself not just as the CEO of a bank, but as a leader, guiding a mission of economic empowerment and global connectivity. BCCI became known for its innovative approach to banking, offering a wide array of services and aggressively seeking new markets. BCCI's rapid expansion made it one of the most successful financial institutions of its time. At its peak, BCCI boasted over 400 branches worldwide and billions of dollars in assets. It attracted clients from all walks of life, from oil-rich Middle Eastern sheikhs to small business owners in developing countries. The bank's meteoric rise seemed unstoppable, and for a time, Abedi was hailed as a visionary who had fundamentally transformed global finance. Yet beneath the surface of BCCI's success lay a far darker reality. The very characteristics that made BCCI innovative and successful, its decentralized structure, its global reach, and its flexibility, also made it an ideal vehicle for engaging in illicit activities. From its earliest days, BCCI was involved in a wide range of criminal activities, including money laundering, arms trafficking, terrorist financing, and fraudulent lending practices. BCCI's decentralized operations made it incredibly difficult for regulators to monitor its activities. The bank used a complex web of offshore accounts, shell companies, and secrecy jurisdictions to move vast amounts of money across borders undetected. BCCI's clients included drug cartels, corrupt politicians, and arms dealers who used the bank to launder billions of dollars in illicit funds. Through its global network, BCCI became a key player in money laundering, moving money for clients involved in illegal activities ranging from drug trafficking in Latin America to arms deals in the Middle East. Perhaps even more alarming was BCCI's involvement in terrorist financing. Intelligence agencies, including those in the United States, would later reveal that BCCI had facilitated financial transactions for extremist groups, including those with ties to Al-Qaeda. These connections raised serious concerns about the role of global banking in facilitating international terrorism, and BCCI's involvement in these activities would ultimately contribute to its downfall. BCCI also engaged in fraudulent lending practices, offering loans that were never intended to be repaid or were backed by false collateral. These loans inflated the bank's balance sheet and masked its insolvency for years. The fraudulent activity at BCCI was pervasive, touching nearly every aspect of its operations. While the bank appeared to be financially sound, much of its supposed wealth was built on fabricated financial statements and falsified documents. One of the reasons BCCI was able to operate for so long without being detected was its deep entanglement in political corruption. The bank wielded significant influence in multiple countries, bribing politicians and government officials to protect its interests. BCCI's political connections extended into the highest levels of governments in countries around the world, including the United States, where it gained access to influential members of Congress and high-ranking officials through covert financial dealings and donations. BCCI's political reach allowed it to operate with near impunity for many years. Investigations revealed that the bank had developed a global network of compromised officials who turned a blind eye to its illegal activities in exchange for financial and political favors. This network of influence was crucial in allowing BCCI to continue its operations, even as regulatory authorities began to notice irregularities in its financial reports. By the late 1980s, however, BCCI's web of corruption and crime began to unravel. Regulatory authorities, including the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve, had long been suspicious of BCCI's opaque financial structures. But it was the determined efforts of Robert Morgenthau, Manhattan's district attorney, and Senator John Kerry, who chaired the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Terrorism, Narcotics, and International Operations, that ultimately brought BCCI's criminal enterprise to light. In 1991, following years of investigation, BCCI was forcibly shut down in a coordinated raid by regulatory authorities across 7 countries. The closure marked the collapse of what had become the largest banking scandal in history. BCCI had defrauded depositors of an estimated $20 billion, and its closure sent shockwaves through the global financial system. Thousands of clients, ranging from individuals to entire governments, were left reeling from the losses. The US Senate report on BCCI was scathing, describing the bank as a criminal enterprise that had engaged in money laundering, arms trafficking, and political corruption on a massive scale. The report highlighted BCCI's extensive use of secrecy jurisdictions and offshore accounts, which had allowed the bank to evade detection by regulators for years. The scandal exposed the weaknesses in international banking regulations and led to widespread calls for reform. At the center of the BCCI scandal was Agha Hasan Abedi. Though he had stepped down from his leadership position at the bank in the late 1980s due to health issues, Abedi was widely regarded as the architect of BCCI's rise and fall. His health had begun to fail after a massive heart attack in 1988 left him partially paralyzed, and in 1990 he formally resigned from the bank. Despite his absence during the bank's final years, many believed that Abedi was fully aware of the illegal activities that had been taking place under his leadership. Throughout his later years, Abedi continued to insist that BCCI had been founded with noble intentions. He claimed that the bank's mission was to serve the developing world, providing financial services to those who had been neglected by Western institutions. However, the scale of the bank's criminal activities and the fact that many of these activities had been integral to its operations made it difficult for Abedi to escape blame. While he was never formally charged with any crimes, his legacy was irreparably tarnished by the scandal. Abedi spent his final years in Pakistan, focusing on philanthropy and distancing himself from the scandal surrounding BCCI. He passed away in 1995, leaving behind a complex legacy, a man who had built one of the largest banks in the world, only to see it collapse in a storm of corruption and crime. The collapse of BCCI had profound consequences for the global financial system. It exposed the vulnerabilities in international banking regulations, particularly in the areas of money laundering and financial transparency. In response to the scandal, countries around the world introduced stricter regulations, including know your customer requirements, aimed at preventing the kind of widespread fraud and corruption that had allowed BCCI to operate for so long. The scandal also sparked global conversations about the role of offshore banking and secrecy jurisdictions in facilitating financial crimes. BCCI had exploited these systems to conceal its operations, and its collapse prompted calls for greater cooperation between national regulators to oversee banks with international operations. For many, the most lasting impact of the BCCI scandal was the erosion of public trust in global financial institutions. BCCI's collapse exposed the dangers of unchecked ambition and the potential for corruption in a globalized banking system. The scandal forced governments, banks, and regulators to re-evaluate their approach to oversight and accountability, and it remains one of the most significant financial scandals in modern history. Agha Hasan Abedi's life and career are a testament to the power of ambition and vision, but also a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the ethical compromises that can accompany rapid success. Abedi's vision for BCCI, a global bank that could serve the developing world, was groundbreaking, but the bank's eventual descent into corruption and criminality overshadowed its early promise. The collapse of BCCI remains one of the largest and most far-reaching banking scandals in history, a scandal that not only destroyed Abedi's legacy, but also exposed the weaknesses in the global financial system. Today, the story of Agha Hasan Abedi and BCCI serves as a reminder of the importance of transparency, accountability, and ethical leadership in banking. A reminder that even the most visionary ideas can be undone by a lack of oversight and integrity.